Last night, J.D. Vance appeared on Fox News in a desperate attempt to spin the failure of his disastrous Iranian negotiations, Donald Trump's disastrous depiction of himself as Jesus Christ, plus his disastrous feud with the Pope, and as a reminder, Vance is a practicing Catholic, as well as his disagreements with Trump as a matter of policy. It was a tightrope that J.D. Vance did not successfully walk and fell over the side. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, we have several clips to play. I want to start in chronological order, beginning with the start of the interview.
Let's talk about the Iran negotiations and maybe what went wrong in Islamabad. Joining us now, Vice President J.D. Vance. Mr. Vice President, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
What happened, and where do we go from here?
Well, first of all, Brett, I wouldn't just say that things went wrong. I also think things went right. We made a lot of progress, but we also made very clear, and I think this is part of the progress we made, what the terms where the United States could make some accommodation, what terms we were flexible on, and what things we absolutely needed to see in order for the President of the United States to feel like he was getting a good deal.
So funny. What a desperate spin. Again, J.D. Vance, very well educated. He's a very smart guy. And is he the most charismatic speaker? No, but he's usually very well spoken. Here he is on friendly territory. Fox News getting a softball interview. But even Bret Baier is unimpressed with his performance as lead negotiator and probably the trajectory of the war. So rather than just talk about that, he's like, well, look, it's not just that things went wrong. Things went right. We talked about things, like there was dialogue. Words were exchanged. Back to you, Brett. No, that's not a tangible victory. It's not a tangible success. That's nothing to brag about. That's nothing really to remark about. And according to the reporting, you were unwilling to give any sort of major concession to Iran. You demanded the entire farm from Iran. Iran feels empowered by way of their leverage of the Strait of Hormuz, and so no deal was met. That's yours and Trump's fault. There's nothing here to defend. And you see in real time, J.D. Vance struggled to put the words together because he's like, how the hell am I going to spin this? And he hesitates, he stammers, he stumbles over his words because there's nothing here to convey. You failed, Trump failed, and the war continues. Let's continue.
When it comes to weapons of war, what they have done is engage in this act of economic terrorism against the entire world. They basically threatened any ship that's moving through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, as the President of the United States showed, two can play at that game. And if the Iranians are going to try to engage in economic terrorism, we're going to abide by a simple principle that no Iranian ships are.
Do you see that? This one went viral, and it's funny just to see in real time. He's like, they're engaging in economic terrorism, punishing the entire world. Well, two can play at that game. Two can play at that game. If you want to engage in economic terrorism, well, we can. And you can see that he didn't even think through the course of that sentence. If you want to engage in economic terrorism, well, we can adhere to a principle, because he almost said we can also engage in economic terrorism. It's so funny. The economic terrorism is not funny, just him trying to spin it. Remember, this comes because Trump is now threatening to block the Strait of Hormuz on our side. I'm sorry, it's so funny. And I saw a thing from Jon Stewart last night on The Daily Show. Jon Stewart cracked me up. But I can't play these damn clips. But he's like, he does like a mafia impression, like The Godfather. You close the Strait of Hormuz, I'll close the Strait of Hormuz. You kick me in he says, you kick me in the dick? Watch this. He starts, I got to play this clip. I'm going to cut that clip in just a second so you can see. Getting back to it. J.D. Vance, oh man, just admitting that under the United States, or under the leadership of Donald Trump, the United States is indeed engaging in economic terrorism. Now, let's turn to Viktor Orban, the recently defeated Prime Minister of Hungary, the wildly illiberal authoritarian Prime Minister of Hungary, and J.D. Vance campaigned for him.
You also campaigned for Viktor Orban in Hungary, and he lost that race, defeated after 16 years in power. Your thoughts about whether it was worth it to go support Viktor Orban in that race, considering he lost significantly, and he's one of the only European leaders who supports Vladimir Putin?
Well, first of all, Brett, I think that Viktor Orban's a great guy who's done a very good job. I think that his legacy in Hungary is transformational. 16 years fundamentally changing that country. But one of the reasons why we decided to do that, Brett, is not because, we can't read polls. We certainly knew there was a very good chance that Viktor would lose that election. We did it because he's one of the few European leaders we've seen who's been willing to stand up to the bureaucracy.
It's so stupid. Viktor Orban has, in his 16 years in power, done everything in his power to radically reshape Hungary to become a more illiberal, authoritarian regime. He has changed election laws specifically to benefit him and his party. He's passed laws, made sweeping changes to the constitutions, again, to benefit the Constitution, to benefit himself and his party and to remain in power. His entire project very explicitly was, I'm going to change the rules so I don't or can't lose power. It's just that dissatisfaction with him was so severe that he still lost despite stacking the deck in his favor. He also changed laws to, hand over media control to political allies of his, like the Trump and Vance administration are doing now. So again, it's just really disgusting that J.D. Vance considers this wildly illiberal authoritarian person not only a friend, but somebody worth championing on the world stage. And thank God Viktor Orban lost. Now, I want to be clear, the person who beat him, not liberal in the political sense. He's conservative. He's also right-wing. Hopefully he does the right thing and uses the power he has to de-Orbanize Hungary, to undo the changes that Viktor Orban imposed over 16 years, that he aggressively makes the changes to make Hungary a more liberal democracy. Because otherwise, this victory could very well be short-lived. This person now has to use the political capital to undo what Orban has done and do it fast. I mentioned the Jon Stewart thing. I want to play this clip real quick because this is what was making me crack up when J.D. Vance was talking about, again, inflicting mutual economic terrorism on the world.
We're blocking it? What kind of f***ed up Godfather? You think you're going to close the strait? No. No, my friend, we're closing the strait. You think you can kick me in the balls? No, watch this.
It's so funny. Oh, man. That's what J.D. Vance is talking about. Okay, now, getting back to J.D. Vance, then Bret Baier confronts Vance about Trump depicting himself as Jesus, the ultimate blaspheme.
Pope Leo has expressed problems with the war in Iran, says that we should be peacemakers, been very vocal. The president took to Truth Social saying Leo should be thankful because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be pope, was only put there because the church, because he was an American, they thought he would be good, best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. If I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. Just wondering, as a Catholic, how you consider this Truth Social post, and then the post of the picture, which a lot of people took as the president posting a picture of himself as Jesus. He later said that he posted it as thinking as a doctor saving people, but it really caused a kerfuffle, Mr. Vice President. I'm just wondering what you make of all of this and whether it's what you think of this back and forth with the church.
I just want to say, again, if this were a Democrat, Bret Baier would not be so gentle in his questioning. He'd be like, isn't this offensive? How do you respond to this? What do you say to the millions of other Catholics who are offended by this, by the president's attacks on the Holy Father? By the way, what about the president's blasphemy? I mean, there are many religious figures, including on the right, Mr. Vice President, who were shocked and disgusted by what the president did. They consider this the ultimate blasphemy. And Mr. Vice President, if Kamala Harris had done this, if Joe Biden had done this, if Barack Obama had done this, wouldn't you be condemning it in the strongest possible terms? That's the sort of question that Bret Baier would ask a Democrat, right, or somebody like that, right, or what he should be asking J.D. Vance. It's just like, what do you think, man? Bro, how's your vibe, bro?
Well, first of all, Brett, I think the president was posting a joke, and of course he took it down because he recognized that a lot of people weren't understanding his humor in that case. I think the president of the United States likes to mix it up on social media, and I actually think that's one of the good things about this president is that he's not filtered. He doesn't send everything through a communications professional. He actually reaches out directly to the people.
He's wildly unpopular. He's the most unpopular president in modern American history, so I'm not entirely sure you should be praising his communication style, number one. Number two, again, if what he says is wildly offensive and corrosive to the coalition you will need J.D. Vance in 2028 if you want to be president, and you need in the shorter term in terms of the midterms. No, this isn't something to defend. It's not something to defend at all. But this is what happens when you're a sycophant like J.D. Vance. You have no other choice but to defend the indefensible.
Do you think that when the president says it's hurting him very badly, catering to the radical left, it's hurting the Catholic Church? Do you agree with the president there?
Well, look, I think the president has the prerogative to set American foreign policy. He's got the prerogative to set American immigration policy. He has to look out for the interests of the United States of America. And that inevitably means that when the Vatican comments on issues of public policy, sometimes there's going to be agreement, of course, and sometimes there's going to be disagreement. I think that's a reasonable thing, Brett. I don't think that it's particularly newsworthy, but I certainly think that in some cases it would be best for the Vatican to stick to matters of morality, to stick to matters of what's going on in the Catholic Church, and let the President of the United States stick to dictating American public policy. But when they're in...
President doesn't dictate public policy. He is one of three branches, right? But again, it's just, this is a practicing Catholic, J.D. Vance, bending over backwards to accommodate, the Trump's attacks on the person who is basically the spokesperson for God in Vance's own religion. Again, there's no principle that J.D. Vance will not sacrifice on the altar of political expedience. One last clip.
You had real skepticism about this at the beginning, and that you expressed that to the president. Is that true?
Well, Brett, I give my advice to the President of the United States, and we all do, and I expect that when I give advice to the President of the United States, that it's going to be private, because the president should rely on his senior advisors without them then running to the media.
So that's J.D. Vance in a very politically correct way saying that he absolutely disagreed and dissented from Donald Trump's decision to go to this war, and he's worried about the political consequences for him and the party, but he has to walk a tightrope here. I don't think he did it particularly well. I think it just makes J.D. Vance look more like a loser. But let me know what you think in the comments.